Hey, my friends, I'm back for another story about Tiny Tim. Yep, I've got a few little Tiny Tim tales, and the first thing that I want to tell you about is the very first time I had any interaction with the legendary and genius musician known as Tiny Tim. It was back in the mid-1980s, and I was big time into Tiny Tim ever since the 70s. I had been listening to Tiny Tim's second album religiously, like over and over again. And I'm telling you, man, I love that record. Well, one day I decided to try to do some deep diving and to figure out where the hell is Tiny Tim? I don't remember how I found out, but I do remember that it might have been an old internet site called Star Archive, but there was no internet then. So it couldn't have been Star Archive. But either way, I was able to find out where he was living, and it was at a hotel in New York City called the Hotel Alcott, or the Alcott Hotel. And it's still open to this day. This place was a historic building that was made in 1930, and it was built on West 72nd Street in New York's Upper West Side. At the time, Tiny Tim was residing there with his then manager, Rick Hendricks, for a short time. Well, when I found out he was living at the Hotel Alcott, I zipped out a letter to him, letting him know that I was a fan, located in Peoria, Illinois. I let him know all the records I owned and the book I had read and this and that. And boy, I thought, I'm never going to hear back from Tiny Tim, but at least maybe he'll get my letter and it'll make him feel good, right? Well, before I tell you what happened, a little history on the Hotel Alcott. That place was pretty wild, man. It was 16 stories. Some of the ex-infamous residents of that place include, but not limited to, John Lennon's assassin, Mark David Chapman, lived at the Hotel Alcott for a period of time, as did distinguished ballet dancer and teacher Nina Yaushkovich. She maintained a dance studio, actually, in the hotel for many, many years. And also, if you're a fan of the movie Taxi Driver with Robert De Niro, Martin Scorsese in the movie Taxi Driver actually used the hotel in a scene in Taxi Driver in that great film from 1976. One other fact about the hotel that's a little grim. Back in 1951, Isidore H. Bander, he was the vice president of the McKesson and Robbins Drug Company. The guy either fell or he jumped to his death from the roof of that hotel in September of 1951. At the time, it was quite a big deal. But back to the story. So here I am, a young guy. I'm about 18, 17, 18, 19, 85. Do the math. Hell, I don't know. I was born in 1966. To be precise, my birthday is 31666. Don't forget, birthday cards always welcome. Anyway, I wrote to Tiny Tim thinking nothing would happen, and lo and behold, maybe a month later, 3 or 4 weeks later, I got a package in the mail about this big, 8 by 10, and I'm like, no way! And it said, Tiny Tim, Hotel Alcott, and I couldn't believe it, man. I opened up this letter, the package, and there was a letter inside, and on the letter, I'll never forget it, it said, Dear Mr. McLeod, that's my legal born name, and nothing I've been trying to hide for a long time, could care less, but I don't use it for any reason except for legally. But it said, Dear Mr. McLeod, Scottish as can be, Highlander, there can only be one. Tiny says, quote unquote, it's nice to know some folks still like me. Tiny Tim. I was like, wow, what a depressing letter. Well, with the letter came a cool 8 by 10 photo, hence the 8 by 10 envelope it came in. And it was a weird off color, like a black and white, but a weird color. And it had him walking through a big patch of tulips, carrying his ukulele, and he signed the picture in orange marker. It was wild. Now, I lost all my belongings in these storage fires. I had a storage unit, 2 of them. And when the Alameda fire swept through Oregon and Northern California back in 2020, I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of pop culture items, including that letter and photo. But I remember it like it was yesterday. And what I said to you is exactly what it said. I'm glad some folks still like me. Wow. So I knew that Tiny must be a kind of a depressed individual, maybe longing for the past. And when I met him years later, which there's another story on my channel about that, he was definitely longing for the past and one more hit. So that was wonderful to hear from Tiny Tim. He was a man of the people. He always cared about his fans, And those that took time to give Tiny Tim love were always given love back in the form of either great stories or lots of great music. My friends, please take the time to subscribe, like, comment, and share this video and this channel. I'd appreciate that. I've got more Tiny Tim tales coming and more tales about all kinds of rock and roll stuff. I'm going to throw a couple curveballs at you guys in the next couple of days. I've been doing all this metal and punk rock and roll, but I'm going to do a couple little curveballs. Thanks for being here, and rock and roll, and long live Tiny Tim. What a legend.